Hello, you are watching this video because your poem does not look like a poem. And so there are two things that you should add to your poem that make it look like a poem. And so the first thing is line breaks, which is essentially hitting enter before the end of your line or sentence. And the second thing is stanzas, which are like paragraphs, but for poems. I'm going to talk about line breaks first. When we write paragraphs, we don't really have to worry about hitting enter all that much. But when you write a poem, you're going to find yourself hitting enter a lot more because poets hit enter and add line breaks even before the end of their sentence. Usually they'll put a line break in between thoughts. So the lines of a poem are a lot shorter than the lines of paragraphs. So you can see an example of someone on the left who has different size lines. Some of them are long, some of them are medium, some of them are short, but this person was adding line breaks to make it look like a poem. As opposed to the person on the right, which their poem kind of looks like a square because they're not paying attention to line breaks. This person on the right needs to add line breaks when they start typing it up. I'm going to show you another example to compare. The person on the left, you can see, look at all of these like small lines over here. They're so little. There's medium lines, there is smaller lines, and then there's really small lines. This person here, their poem is in the shape of a square. They were not thinking about hitting enter when they were writing. And so when this person on the right types it up, they're going to need to add some line breaks so it doesn't look like a square. So your poem, if your poem looks like a square, you're going to need to add line breaks so that it no longer looks like a square. The second thing you need to do to make your poem look like a poem is to add stanzas. Stanza is a fancy word for paragraphs, but for poems. And when a poem is organized into stanzas, you can see that it has little chunks. The poem we're looking at right now has 2 stanzas. You can tell because they left extra space in between the first stanza and the second stanza. So it's kind of looks like it's paragraphs in an essay, except it's a poem, not a paragraph. I want to show you the difference of a poem that has stanzas and a poem that doesn't have stanzas. So on the left, we see an example of a poem with only one stanza. They don't really take any breaks as they write. But on the right, you can see that this person left space in between their stanzas. And that is an easy way to organize your poem into thoughts, the same way you might use a paragraph to organize your essay. I'm going to show you another example. So this is another easy comparison. You can tell that the person on the left is writing in stanzas because they leave lines in the middle. So it's organized into like paragraphs or chunks. This poem, there's nothing wrong with this poem, but it's only one stanza. And so sometimes when your poem is one stanza long, it can be hard to expand your ideas. Just like in an essay, stanzas can help you organize your thoughts the same way paragraphs can help you organize your thoughts. So the last thing I'm going to do is, this is my poem right now. And if you're watching this video, your poem might look a lot like mine. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add line breaks. So I'm going to add a line break kind of anytime it feels right. But a lot of times I add a line break between ideas. So I was born on February 18th. Enter. On the cusp of Aquarius and Pisces. This is a new sentence. So I like to make new sentences, new lines. Aquarians are supposed to be cold, distant, disconnected. It's really not me. My Pisces side wins out most days. I have more emotions than I can hold. I've been told I love too hard and too much. Sometimes words like and are nice beginnings of sentences, or lines rather. I'm trying to find balance. That's nice. It can be really nice to play with medium and short lines. So like I like short lines. So sometimes I give one word its own line for fun. So if you want to try that, you totally can. You can see that my poem is a little bit about being an Aquarius and a little bit about being a Pisces. So a nice place to put a stanza break is when I switch over from Aquarius to Pisces. My thoughts are switching, and so I'm making it its own stanza. I might I'm trying to find my balance. That might be a nice beginning of stanza 3 because I'm kind of like switching topics. And so you can see that I took my big paragraph poem that was in the shape of a square, and the first thing I did was I added line breaks, and the second thing I did was I added um, extra enters so that it's organized into chunks instead of just a big block of text. So your turn, go do it.